Last season we had a lot of the big camps to do, which was quite challenging for us. This season there's less of that, but more smaller sets. It's been as exciting again, I think, as last year, but in a different way. We usually have the working scripts to begin with, and the props, are going to be complicated. You set in motion, and then it's really a case of keeping up to speed with any new props that are introduced. To make an entire book is quite a slow and complicated process. But for any of the books that are actually being read, we had to have the books go to a publisher in London and actually be made up and bound. For any of the pages that are being leafed through will have been made up here, but there may only be 10, 12 of those pages in a book that would have had thousands of pages. But to make that in reality, the medieval monks should be there for years and years creating these books.
You'll be pleased to learn I've saved the crown hundreds of thousands.
The pig pen, we had actually put real pigs in, but it was so unpalatable, the smell was fairly dreadful, that we then had to take it all back out again. We then did various tests which involved a mix of compost and various other elements, which looked kind of as realistic, but was safe for the actors to use and for the crew to be around. The cages were redesigned really to accommodate the size of the new dragons. We had one of the carpenters remake the cages. Once he's finished, then they go to the drapes department, who then do all the skin work on them and all the bindings. And from there they then go to the prop painter and his department, who then work on the aging of them all to look as if the dragons have been living in the cages. And we kind of work out whatever's going to look convincing but actually is really not realistic at all.
We are shooting in Iceland. It was important to shoot here because here's where you get this. Sometimes 5 or 6 times a day.
It was very exciting to know that we were coming back for season 3.
It's the perfect location for Beyond the Wall.
The landscape is just like, it's so otherworldly. It's like you're on a different planet.
Yesterday we were shooting in a blizzard, so we couldn't see how beautiful it was.
It just makes such a huge difference coming to a place where it's actually this cold and it's actually snowing like this. And the actors, when they're huddling up for warmth, they really did need to get close to get warm.
When you see people's breath, you're really seeing people's breath. When you see icicles coming out of their mustaches and beards, it's real icicles.
Yes, it's cold, but it's so incredibly beautiful and untouched. It's what you think it is times 10.
It's harsh weather conditions. It's not easy to shoot here, but the country's so beautiful that it makes it such a pleasure to come to.
There's about 5 hours of daylight, so you can imagine it's a lot of pressure to get a lot of shots.
It's a lot of work to schedule everything and figure out how to get all the equipment here and how we can afford it all. But at the end of the day, we'd rather spend the money on the locations rather than on the VFX. It just makes everything more real.
I don't think you could recreate this scenery on a green screen or on a backlot. There's nothing like it.
To be able to come to a place and just be in it makes the world seem so vast and immense, and that's what we needed to make this show work.
When the long night comes, north of the wall becomes the kingdom of the dead.
With it being a fantasy as such, it's just really creative, just different every year. Professionally, you would sort of wonder about doing the same thing again and again, but I think the nature of the show, the ever-increasing kingdom and new characters constantly coming into it and new looks, it just doesn't get boring.
It's all relatively familiar because it's set in a medieval type world. However, it is fantasy, so you're given that sort of license to be a bit more creative and invent new worlds.
We don't have as many big build sites, but we've got a lot of traveling, a lot of journey stuff, so people all in different landscapes geographically. So we've had to follow their various journeys, and it's important to make sure that each stop or camp feels different.
I've been very lucky that I've been able to work on specific areas, and it's changed for me every year. So this year I did the Red Keep Composite Courtyard, and we wanted to give the audience something different. They're so familiar now with other areas, the throne room and some of the small hall, and that's why we created this courtyard so that we could have an architectural backing for the set.
It's a big help to have the location help you along, help the viewer along with the different terrain that you're in, and it's always great to find something that's not just the background, where the location is actually something quite stupendously cool, because I think that really helps the wow factor to open up the series a bit.
It's amazing. Everybody's so talented, and you've been so involved in your little piece, and you do your best to make sure that it looks really great. But when they turn the lights on and it's properly lit for the camera, for me that's one of the most exciting parts, and you've got the cast and the costume, and then it really comes to life.
And you get a sense that you're working on something really quite big and quite special. And I mention it to people, and their eyes sort of widen, they light up, and they go, and they want to know all about it and what's going on. Obviously, my lips are sealed. But yeah, you get a sense that you're working on something quite special.